We're now going to demonstrate the cleaning procedures and maintenance procedures for the small animal tool from JARVIS. What we want to do is we're going to do the barrel assembly, barrel and bolt assembly first. We'll remove the muzzle extension. We will now remove the breech. We use a special tool to remove the breech. There are two flats on the tool that will match up on the two flats on the breech. And simply turn it off. And we're going to remove the breech. We'll now then remove the concussion head. We'll use two 14mm wrenches. There are two flats on the concussion head, and there are two flats on the back of the bolt. We simply turn until it's loose. Take the concussion head off, and then we can remove the bolt assembly, a stop washer, 4 sleeves, and a second stop washer. We'll start with the bolt first. What we want to do with the bolt is we want to wipe it clean. We're going to wash that off. I'm going to grab some. Sorry. We want to use a scratch pad and make sure that we're cleaning off any excess debris on the piston end of the bolt, and do the same on the stem of the bolt. We want to inspect the threads to make sure there's no cracks anywhere on there or anywhere on the stem. We then want to inspect and clean our stop washers and flange washer. Please note there is a dish out on one side and it's flat on the other. So we want to make note of that. Inside diameter is where the wear will occur. So we want to make sure that we inspect to make sure there's not excessive damage or material missing. We'll do the same with the flange washer. Wash it with a dry rag. And again, there is a dish out here on one side and it's flat on the other. We want the flat side to be on the sleeve. We'll then inspect our 4 sleeves, clean them with just a dry rag. We don't want to use any oils or anything on these. Just want to inspect them. Again, the inside diameter will wear, and it will also wear back towards the middle. If you have damage, excessive damage on one of the 4 sleeves, it's not necessary to replace all 4. You can replace just the damaged one. So we just inspect and clean all of those. We want to inspect and clean the knocker head, ensuring that the threads are in good condition. Also, there is inside, I normally do not remove it, there is a buffer inside the threaded area, just a cushion from the end of the bolt thread and the inside face of the knocker head. We'll need to clean the muzzle extension. Simply wipe it clean. It should be inspected for any cracks around the thread area or anywhere within the stem. The muzzle should be cleaned using just a dry rag. It should be inspected as well. Make sure that the extractor is in working condition. It should compress and return. If the extractor is not working properly, if it is stuck in a downwards position, we simply knock the pin out, remove the extractor, replace the spring, and assemble again. We want to check the threads for any excess wear on the threads. It can wear here from the assembly and disassembly when you use the tool. On the barrel, we want to use a brush, and we want to brush the inside of the barrel out. If necessary, use some gun cleaning solution if you've got excess debris or rust buildup inside. Once we've done that, we can take a rag and we wipe that out, thoroughly clean it. We want to check the inside bore of the barrel to make sure that we don't have any wear or misshape of the barrel. If it does, if we see any misshaping on this end, on the discharge end of the barrel, we should have it replaced. Inspect all of the threads on the exterior and the interior to make sure they're clean. To reassemble the barrel assembly, what we do is we actually start with the bolt. Again, I want to make sure that I put the washers on correctly. We have the dish out here and the flat here. So if you look at the bolt, the dish out end will go down and cover that flange so it's flat. We then replace our sleeves. And again, the top washer is dished out and it's flat. We want to make sure the flat is in a downward position like that. I'll then take this bolt assembly and I'll put it back into the barrel. Hold it in place, and we're going to replace the knocker head. You get to a certain point, you'll have to use the tools, and we will tighten the knocker head in place. We should tighten all the way to the base of the threads on the bolt and make sure it's tight. We can then replace the breech. We will thread it on, and again, we want to use the special tool that comes with the small animal stunner, and we will tighten it into place. And then last, we'll replace the muzzle extension. Simply hand tight is sufficient for that. We'll then move on to the firing cap. The firing cap requires us to remove the pull. We'll use just an adjustable wrench and we'll remove the pull. Get it started. And we should be able to turn that off by hand. Next, we're going to remove that off, compress the trigger and pull the firing pin spring out and firing pin. We then remove the trigger and the trigger spring. We'll start with the trigger. We want to wipe it clean. We're going to inspect the inside diameter here to make sure there's no roll on that and it's not worn rounded. We also want to inspect these two areas to make sure that they're not worn in a downwards position or back. If we have excessive wear on these two flanges here, we would want to replace the trigger. Next is the trigger spring. It's an aerated rubber spring. It should compress and reshape. When replacing a fire or a trigger spring with a new one, please note that it will cause the trigger to compress harder. So the first few attempts to use the tool, consider using more strength to make fire. But nothing needs to be done with the trigger spring if it's in good working condition. We next clean the bushing. We want to inspect the inside of the bushing to make sure there's not excessive wear on any of the threads. We also want to inspect the inside bore. There is an edge here for the firing pin to rest in. We want to make sure there's no wear there. The pull cap, we just wipe clean of any rust or debris, inspect the threads, and make sure they're in good working condition. The firing pin and firing pin spring, we'll wipe clean as well. We want to be sure on the firing pin that we are inspecting the edges of the firing pin that rest on the trigger when in fire mode. And we also want to inspect the positioning ring on this. It's important to note also that on this particular tool, the small animal tool, there are threads for threading the cap on directly. So we want to make sure that we inspect the threads to see if there's any cracks or any damage to any of those threads throughout that area. The firing pin spring should be just wiped clean and inspected. If it's missing pieces or pieces have fallen out when you've taken it apart, it should be replaced. Otherwise, we simply replace it. To reassemble, we start with the firing pin, put the firing pin spring on. We then take the bushing, we'll put that on, and we'll take our cap, our pull cap. Next, we're going to take our trigger. We're going to put the trigger spring into the trigger. Take the firing cap assembly and put it back together. Note, there is an O-ring at the base of the threads. Make sure that it is intact and in good working condition. If frayed, remove it and replace. We then put in our firing pin, noting that if there is wear on either side, excessive wear on either side, put the wear side to the button of the firing assembly, insert and squeeze the trigger, and we can then install the firing pin assembly. Hand tight until we stop. And then we're going to take a wrench and we will tighten the bushing down first, and then tighten the cap. That's the assembly for the firing cap assembly. We're now going to demonstrate the proper use of the JARVIS small animal tool. It's important that anyone that uses a captive bolt device should wear eye protection and hearing protection. When using the small animal tool or any captive bolt device, it's important to note to always keep the muzzle end of the tool pointed away from yourself and never point it at any of your fellow employees. To start, we're going to disassemble the firing cap from the barrel breech assembly. We'll insert the power load into the chamber here. We do want to point out on the JARVIS small animal tool, We use only an 1/8 of a turn thread. It's a quick connect, so you don't have to fully thread the firing cap on. It's just a quick turn. Assembly and disassembly. We then will reconnect, and notice the dots. I want to line up the dots, so I turn it a 1/4 turn so the dots line up to make ready to fire. On this particular tool, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the firing pin in a locked position. We are now in a ready to fire mode. We also want to note this is for demonstration purposes only. We do not ever recommend air firing any captive bolt tool. Proper holding of the tool is I make sure I've got 2 fingers. I hold it from the back side, so I have 2 fingers on control on the trigger, so I can release if I have to. But to fire, point in a downwards position and squeeze the trigger. To remove the spent cartridge, we just reverse off the firing cap, and note the extractor has pulled the cartridge up, and we simply remove the spent cartridge.